Well, welcome back. A little cold tonight. My garage is not heated, insulated but not heated, and it's pretty cold outside tonight. I've got a 2014 Nissan Rogue, needs rear brakes, so we're just going to go through and do rear brakes in this. We're actually going to try to cut these rotors and have them cut. I don't know, I haven't measured them yet, so we'll check them, and if we can, we'll get them cut rather than having to replace them with new ones. The brakes in this is the first time they've been done, so I know they haven't been cut yet. Okay, 21 millimeter for this car. I'm going to put these on, but they're a little tight. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is going to come in here. He's upper and lower. Can't see what I'm looking at. I can't tell if you're actually seeing this. We'll try to get you a little closer here. So, right on the back of this caliper, the slide bolts, 14 millimeter. We're going to break them loose before we do anything else. This makes it easier when the caliper mount is still tight and attached. It shouldn't be that tight. The other side was a little tight. Not too bad. We'll just back them up. Top one I'm just going to back out. But you can see this line's right in the way. We're not going to take it all the way out. We're just going to back it out and then leave it. We'll just make sure it's disconnected here. Get this, I don't want to trap my wrench here. So once I get it loose enough, I'm just going to spin it by hand. We just want to make sure we can slide this out. I'll show you why. Yeah, so it's out. So you can see it's out. It's not threaded anymore. Bottom one we'll remove. We'll take that one all the way out. It's like the other side, the bottom one actually has a plastic or rubber tip to it. Make sure we put that back in the bottom. So now we've got that loose. Now behind here are two bolts that mount the bracket, the caliper mounting bracket. 17 millimeter, one at the top, one under here. The bottom one you're going to need an extension for because there's a shock mount that's in the way. It's kind of hard to get it ratchet, so you just go around it. So I'm going to break these loose. These were pretty tight on the other side. So you can hear it, but we're going to take them out. The bolt, there we go. I'll take this off here, wiggle it off. Now I can just slide this. I can pivot this caliper and kind of slide it right out like that. It just slides apart. And I just leave that bolt there because that line's really, you could really push it if you had to replace this bolt. But since this is fine, we'll just clean it. We'll just leave that alone. Set the caliper up here behind. We're going to clean this up. So we're going to go in behind here. Basically, your inner pad on this car has the indicator, so if the new pads have an indicator, it goes on the inside. We're going to take these metal slides off. Always replace this hardware. Put new slides in there, but we'll go back. What you want to get is you can see that corrosion that's building up behind in there. We're going to go in with a file. If it's bad, if it's just a surface, we'll just wire wheel it and clean it, but we'll go in with a file and just knock that corrosion off, and then we're going to grease behind it. Always want to do that. So what happens on these is the corrosion gets in behind and your pad rides down hardware and it sits in here like this. And that corrosion will push up on that piece of hardware and it will bind these pads up and they won't work as well as they should. So we're going to clean it out and grease it, keep the moisture out of there, make sure it doesn't get back in there, keep it from doing that. So it's pretty tight. It's not hung up on the parking brake. I can turn it obviously. These are not too bad, I don't believe so. Hopefully a couple smacks here with the hammer. I hope. That's why I have jack stands. I'm just not going to jack stands loose here. Hopefully without too much problem we'll get this loose. Sometimes these are tough. There it goes. So they get corroded right around this hub more than anything. Right around where it meets that flange for the hub is where they'll get corroded. These are not too bad actually. These are actually pretty good. They come off. Sometimes they're really tough. Let me put this back together. I'm going to clean this. So you can see this is pretty clean, the face of the hub. But in this, where it meets that flange, that center flange, that's where they get stuck all the time. So we're going to clean it up with some sandpaper, Scotch-Brite, and then we're going to put a thin coating of high temperature grease, bright grease on there. And what that helps to do is to keep it from corroding right around there and then hanging up and making it hard. But these actually look pretty good. We're going to actually take these, take them and see if we can get them cut. I don't know if we can or not. I don't know what the exact measurement on these are. I was trying to find it, but I couldn't. But we'll take it, and if we can get them cut, we'll get them cut if they're within spec. If we can't, we'll get new ones. I've got this one caliper here. I'm just going to peel the hardware off so you can see how dirty it is. Come in behind here with a small file in this case because these are pretty small. And we're just going to go in here and we're going to clean this up. Make sure we get the corrosion, just knock it off of there. I actually filed the metal, just want to get the corrosion off of it. Both ends. This is not too bad actually. Very small file because it's pretty small and narrow, and bigger files won't get in there for me. Now that we've done that, I'm actually going to take it to the wire wheel over here. I'll zoom in a little bit for you. Right there, and we're going to clean it. I am going to wear glasses for this. Protect your eyes. We're going to wire wheel that as well. So what I found with these, with the rubber boots, they come off really easy. So I just took the boots off so I don't have to worry about hitting them with the wire wheel, and went back in and wire wheeled them. Piece of Scotch-Brite, made sure so. Hopefully you can see that we back you out here a little bit. I'm kind of way on top of you. Back it up. Whoop, whoop. So these are all nice and clean now in here. Right in there. You can see that, I hope. And then I'm just going to grease these. Alright, so I've got my grease here. I like this Permatex Ceramic Extreme brake grease. Just going to take some of this. Whoa. Where's my stuff here? I'm just going to come in behind here where the hardware would be. Grease it. I don't have to put a lot, use a thin coating on it. Get it greased up both ends. All that's doing is keeping the moisture from getting in there. That's all that's for. Keep the corrosion from starting, or at least slow it down a lot as much as possible. Some more here. Okay. All right. Let me get my hardware for that. That's the right part number. These are Wagner thermoquiets for the Rogue Select that has the vented rotor. I'll show you what I mean by vented rotor. Maybe you don't know what that means. I was able to get the rotors cut. See the vent between the two sides here? That's a vented rotor. They also make a version, and I'm guessing for the base, non-select version of the Rogue that is a solid rotor. That's what the other set of pads were for, and that's why the slides were no good. So I exchanged the pads. I was able to exchange them. Got the new ones, which interestingly enough, they come with 8 different slides. So I'm guessing some of the selects probably have a solid rotor and some of them have a vented. This is vented, so I will get the correct slides out of this hardware package and we'll put them in and put them back on the car. All right, Got the rotors cut. Everything's ready to go. I've already greased this slide. This slide is still in the caliper with So-Glide. I greased the bottom pin with So-Glide. You don't want to load them up. You just want a thin coating on there. If you get too much in that slide, it can kind of create a hydraulic action and lock it up. So before we put anything back together, I'm going to go here and just clean this hub. Got a piece of emery cloth here. I'm going to sand this hub down, get some of the corrosion off it, and I'm going to grease it before I put the rotor back on. I'll let that dry for a minute, and then I'll grease it. You get to use high temperature grease on these, not regular grease, brake grease, high temp grease. Not a lot, just a thin coating, especially around that center hub here, where the flange on the hub. Get around that real well. Also get it out here on the. Doesn't seem to have a problem out here. Usually we'll get, like I said before, it'll get stuck on that flange, and where that flange meets the hub. But it doesn't hurt to do the whole thing. Okay. Hang a rotor. Rotor's been cut. I've cleaned them with the brake clean. There's the access hole, but you can see it doesn't matter. The way this hub's made, you can put it anywhere. You'll be able to get it to the adjuster if you need to for the parking brake. We don't need to do that, but if I did, hang that back on there. You see I've cleaned this, the face of this rotor where the wheel will sit, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a thin coat of grease on that as well. Okay, now we can rehang our caliper. Mounting bracket, which has the new hardware. It's greased behind the hardware. It's ready to go. And put that back on. All right, we can hang our caliper mounting bracket again. I've got the bolts that go to the steering, not the steering knuckle, just the knuckle. It doesn't really steer in the back, but so I like to put a little blue Permatex thread locker on. Don't use red. This is a red container, but it's blue. If you use red, you're going to have heat to get it apart. You don't want to do that. So just a little bit of blue Permatex on them. I wire wheeled them, cleaned them up, made sure they were clean. We're just going to hang our caliper bracket back up. 2 bolts, top and bottom. I know you can't see this, but it's nothing really exciting here. Just got to line it up and get them started. So it doesn't hurt. Okay, so there we go. Now I can rehang the caliper. I've already, as I said before, I've already greased my slides, my slide pins with So-Glide brake grease. We're just going to start this. Actually, no, we're not. Might help if I put the pads in. So, the inside has the, when it came off, the inside had the indicator on it, squeal indicator, or wear indicator, I guess you should call it. Snapped into place. I'll show you the outside one. They just slide right into this, into the hardware there. Push it in, squeeze them against the rotor. That's it. So now we can hang caliper. Get my arm out of the way. Just slide that in the top pin. Get it started. Good. I didn't push this caliper back in, did I? I didn't push the piston back in. I skipped something. Important too. I got to push this piston in, and I need to clean it and grease it. So anything that rides against the back of the pads we want to grease. So I'll clean these tabs here on the outside, and I'll push that piston in, and I'll clean this is a metal piston, so I'll clean the face of that and put some grease on it. Some Permatex Ceramic Extreme I like to use for that. So since I forgot to do it, I wouldn't be able to get that back on the rotor. Push that back in. It should go in easy. Shouldn't be hard to push back in. If it is, make sure you check your caliper or check that flexible line. Sometimes they get clogged if they're corroded. This car's pretty new, so it went right back in, no problem. Push it all the way in. Now, I'm going to clean this since I forgot. Scotch-Brite, sandpaper, whatever you got. Any corrosion off of this. Piece of emery cloth. Don't forget to do this. I mean, don't try to cut corners. Not a big deal. Just clean this up and grease it. You have a lot less problem in the long run. Clean the face of this piston too. I'm going to re-grease that pin, by the way. Don't think that I'm not going to re-grease it, because I am going to re-grease it. I just sprayed it with brake clean, so I am going to re-grease it. Let that dry off. Clean that pin up again. That was my own fault for forgetting to push the piston in and clean it. Do it twice. A little bit of Sil Glide brake grease. Re-grease the pin. Make sure it's coated good. Okay. A little bit of this left. Might as well use it. Grease the face of that piston and those tabs. These just ride against the back of the pad, keep corrosion from getting in there, pushing the pad around. Also help to reduce any vibration noise from the pad as well. Okay. A little bit more. I had a whole bunch of these little packets, and might as well use them up. A big container of it, but might as well use what I have. Okay, so now it's greased, ready to go. Now I can hang it. Make sure my pads are in. Don't twist your flexible brake line. Just slide it in here into the top. Get it lined up. Get my bottom pin. That's already been greased with Sil Glide brake grease. Line that up. Get the boot. Make sure the boot's not pinched. The rubber boot. Line everything up, get it started here. There we go, and I'm just going to always try to start these by hand so you don't cross thread them. These are 14 millimeter. There's one. Get this top started now. That's how they should go in. They should go in easy. You see how this is moving nice, and it's sliding back and forth. Real simple, not much pressure. That's what you want. That's what it should be. Make sure your boots are seated right. Good. Push them in. They look good. Now let's tighten up. All right. You just snug them up. You don't have to kill them. Just snug them up. So you see how this moves real easy? That's what you want. Just sliding back and forth on those pins. Exactly what you want. So we got one more thing to do here before we put the wheel back on, and that's put the plug back in, the rubber plug, to keep the dirt, salt, water out of there. We don't want that getting in there. So, all right, now I've got the plug in there correctly. Got to tighten back up. Before you drive this, get in, push the brake pedal, pump it until it gets firm. Reseat these pads against the rotor, otherwise you get a little bit of a scary moment there. That's it. Obviously, I'm going to put the wheel back on, torque it back down with a torque wrench, and that's it. Pretty easy job, just normal maintenance. Do your maintenance. I don't know how else to say that. I say that in my other videos. Do your maintenance. Your car will cause a lot less problems for you if you just do your maintenance. So that's it. Just basic maintenance for this Nissan Rogue Select. Difference in the back rotors for this different models of this Rogue are a vented versus a solid rotor. In this case, vented rotors. We were able to cut the rotors. They're OEM rotors and hadn't been brakes hadn't been changed in the rear before, so they were within spec and we could cut them. Save a little bit of money that way, and next time we'll have to replace them. Use good parts. If you're doing the work yourself, you're saving a lot of money on labor rates. Don't go cheap on parts. Buy good parts. Always replace the hardware and do the little things that make a difference. It doesn't take that long greasing behind the hardware, making sure they get the corrosion out of there. If there's anything like that behind the slides. Little things that really don't add much time, but just help the brakes to work more like they're supposed to, and it cause a lot less problem for you. I hope the video helped you out. If you like the video, subscribe below. Thanks for watching.